Hey there, everybody. This is Omar once again with Meet a Geek, and today I am joined with a very prominent Geekdom member by the name of Tex Morgan. How you doing, Tex?
I'm doing well. How about yourself, Omar?
I'm doing well, man. I'm really happy that we did get a chance to schedule this out. I know that I think I had 2 delays that pushed this back, so I do apologize, and I do appreciate your flexibility in all of this. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. And, I'm a patient person, so it's not that big of a deal.
Speaking of you being a patient person, let's talk more about you. So Tex, who are you?
Oh, man. Isn't that the question we're all trying to answer, right?
Well, at least at the beginning of every episode of Meet a Geek, yeah.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but in life, it's like, who are we, right? What are we doing? Where are we going?
Hashtag deep.
Yeah. Hashtag meta.
Yeah.
So who am I? I'm a guy that was born and raised in Houston, Texas. Spent some time in New York. Highly educated. Spent a lot of time with computers. Got a degree in computer science and computer engineering. Got an M.B.A. in finance and digital marketing. So I know a little bit about the business and the finances of a business,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. Spent some time on the VIA board, which I really enjoyed. And I like riding bicycles. That's pretty much who I am, if you
All right.
want it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So you said you're overly educated and you have a degree in computer science and computer engineering. Can you tell me a little bit of the difference
Yeah.
between those two?
Computer science is the software side. Computer engineering is the hardware side.
Okay.
So a lot of talking about processor design, microchips, like breaching into topics in robotics and automation, things like that. And it's also kind of like, in some ways, it's a hyper-focused branch of electrical engineering, if you really
Mhm.
want to think about it that way.
Okay. And so you also have an MBA in marketing and what was the other one?
Finance.
Finance, that's right. I don't know how, for some reason I was thinking digital marketing, but that's also marketing. Marketing and finance.
Yeah.
So with all these different degrees, have this kind of will blend into the second question, which is what do you do? Do you do something with all that education, or kind of what are you doing these days?
I hope so. It depends. I've definitely had jobs where they've just been like, "Hey, you're here to code. You're here to be an engineer," and I look at those people and I'm like, "You are missing out, buddy. Like you're missing out on a whole lot of talents."
Mm-hmm.
Right now, though, I am using a lot of it, and I'm using it to help small businesses working for a company called Womply.
Mm-hmm.
And Womply kind of made their name for handling customer reviews and things like that, but have since branched out into payment solutions and billing solutions and things like that. So I get to use some of my financial acumen to kind of do financial analysis, do some underwriting kind of like things, but also, take the computer science side of my brain and go, okay, how do we actually turn this into, a web page or, algorithm that we use or something like that, and keep going with it.
Right. So what was the impetus behind getting all of these different degrees? Did you have like a free ride, or was there some other external
No.
push? What was that all about?
To be honest with you, I went into college. So the funny thing is for all the degrees I have, like, I was not what I would say a very good student in high school.
Okay.
And I don't mean that because like I just didn't take it seriously. It was just like I had no control of my mind at that age. I didn't possess the capability or interest in any of the topics. And so it was like it was just a nightmare. I remember being like, okay, I'm here in this English class and like sitting there like counting down the minutes until I got to go to a computer science class or
I see.
got to go to a math class, right?
Right.
And so like for me, like high school was really an experience of doing a bunch of things I had to do, not a whole lot of things I had any interest in or wanted to do. And, it was a very different world. Now, the ramifications of that is that didn't get very good grades, got a D in, ironically, got a D in physics. And I say ironically because I ended up getting a minor in physics in college. But because of that D, a lot of the engineering places that I applied to for college rejected me. And I ended up only getting to 2 different schools. So I chose one of them and found out that one of the 2 had a program with Columbia. So I went from Hobart, was the college I wanted to go to. And originally I was going to do a dual degree there with computer science and international relations.
Okay.
I was big into Model UN when I was in high school.
Yeah.
But when I arrived my freshman year, like literally preseason for football, and found out that they had actually gotten rid of the entire international relations department.
That's terrible. That's a rude
I had
awakening.
to go back to the drawing board a little bit on that one.
Yeah.
And found out that Hobart had a partnership with Columbia where you would do 3 years at one school, 2 years at the other school, and you graduate with a degree from each in 5 years. So that's why I have the BS in computer science with a minor in physics, and why I have a BS in computer engineering from Columbia. That's how that came to be. Really just kind of, if you think about it, there are a lot of people that take 5 years to graduate from college. I took 5 years to graduate twice. Which was also very weird because like I went to one graduation and it's like the next year went to the next one. It was like, what's going on here?
I've already done this.
yeah, I did this at another place.
Yeah.
Now the M.B.A, to be honest with you, I was working at a financial software company in New York, and it was one of those things where the company was growing and growing and growing, but where I was within that company there was a very limited like roadmap for where I could go.
Sure.
And one of the things that was very clear to me was like, I understood the equities trading platform that we were doing. I understood how it behaved. I didn't understand why. And I was really curious about it. I was really, really curious. And, even when I was younger, always curious about kind of the financial side and stock markets and things like that. So, found out, and this is pre 2008, found out that my company had a very generous, tuition reimbursement program, and said, hey, if I want to get anywhere in the finance world, I have to go beyond this technical stuff I'm doing. You got to get some management training, some management experience.
Sure.
So I went to applied for business school, got in. It was a part-time program, which I really like because it allowed me to still work and have a life and learn at the same time.
Very cool. That's really interesting. I mean, that's a lot of opportunity that you had available to you. I mean, and I don't know. I think that's really cool.
I think so. So the thing that was really interesting to me about it is like I got into almost every single M.B.A program that I applied to. So it's like the polar opposite of my like college like application.
Right, your
experience.
undergraduate, yeah.
Yeah, like it's and so it was like really weird, and I just kind of looked at it and I was, ran the numbers on some of it. I was like, okay, I could go to Baruch and pay a fifth of the cost of going to NYU. Why would I go to NYU? Like,
yeah,
what's so that was another thing. And once 2008 hit, some of those tuition and reimbursement things went right out the window. So I was actually kind of happy that I ended up going with Baruch because I would have been bad.
That's interesting. So whenever you did go through your M.B.A, your company did not do the tuition reimbursement.
They did, but it was at a lower amount. So it was like originally it was going to be like something like $10,000 a year,
right? And
cover like approximately, I'm going to say, it was going to be something like a 50-50 split, basically, because I was living in New York. I was a New York resident, going to a public university
Mm-hmm.
to get my M.B.A.
Right.
So I got all kinds of discounts and credits and stuff there. But yeah, I mean, the program was originally, tuition reimbursement was supposed to be like $10,000 or something, and then after 2008 hit, they were like, well, we're going to give you like $1,000. It's like, well, that is a lot less.
Yeah. Wow.
Whereas, I think if I had gone to NYU, I'd still be paying off like student loans and things like that. But
Yeah. You're like, I haven't finished my
fortunate.
degree yet, but that's about 10%. That's about 10%
Yeah.
of what the original was. Hmm.
No, exactly. And it was just like one of those things you looked at and you're like, man, I am glad I made this choice.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome, man. So you were up in New York. What brought you down here to San Antonio?
I was just, to be honest with you, I was burned out on it, man. I had been in New York City for 10 years, upstate New York for 3 years, and made a list of different places that I wanted to live and ended up landing in New York, landing in San Antonio, just because I was dating a person at a point in time that
Mm-hmm.
was still living here and they weren't able to move. So I was like, okay, I'll come down to San Antonio. Always had a good time there. Sadly, didn't end up working out in that relationship, but we are still friends, and I think it's worked out for the both of us, and hopefully San Antonio enjoys my presence. So maybe it's a win all around.
I don't know, Tex. The jury's still out on that one.
Just a couple more million people that.
I know. You just got to convince a few more 100,000 people, and I think you'll get there.
Yeah, yeah.
But speaking of people liking you, you also had an opportunity for people to vote for you too, right?
That is absolutely right. I ran for land commissioner back in 2018. Didn't make it past the primary, but it was an amazing experience, and I learned a lot about myself and met a lot of really truly amazing people. And if there's one thing I could say, if you're looking for a challenge in your life or looking to figure out like something, go run for office, and you'll find that there's a challenge right there, or you'll find exactly kind of what you're, was that really the thing you want to do, or is there some other way for you to help your community?
Yeah, that was, I mean, I think that was a surprise for a lot of us when we found out that you were running for office. And you did your announcement in front of the Alamo, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was a really cool day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I
And
remember watching a video about that, and you were like behind a small podium, and like you were yelling at a crowd about how
it
like,
was the most bizarre thing, just to be honest with you. Like, now I'm thinking back on it, it was like we had invited a bunch of people, and a lot of people were supposed to come, and then it was like, I think it was one of those things where like, the weather that day was like supposed to like snow or something for the first time in a while,
that's
and
bizarre. That never
so a
happens in
bunch of
San
people didn't
Antonio.
show up, and then like at the same time it's the Alamo, so
Right.
like there are a bunch of tourists like coming by and
Yeah.
being like, this is strange,
Yeah.
or this seems important, maybe I'm from the state and I should listen to this guy, which
Yeah.
was nice because a couple people did. um, but there were definitely moments where like I was in the middle of that speech where I like looked around and I'm like, please, crazy person over there, don't come into like my like I like come over here and like gather attention, or grab attention away from me or distract me in some way.
Wow.
But no, it was a good experience, and uh, you know tried to announce it there. I wanted to bring it home. I think a lot of people don't realize that uh, the General Land Office does so many things in Texas. It really does, and the Alamo is one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point in time, same commissioner is in office now that was in then. There were some serious financial irregularities with the accounting of the Alamo. So to me, it was more of a kind of, let's do this not only as a way to, as a more metaphorical stand and to remind people of the importance of this office, but also as a way to like bring more attention to the fact that somebody that was just running it so poorly.
You know, you and I are a part of the same Slack group for the Centurion developers, and one of the things that you did last year was encourage people during the month of November, I believe, to focus on local politics, because there's the thought, and there's the idea, which I find this idea to ring very true, is that most people in town are not very aware of what's going on locally and politically. They may not know who their chairperson is, or they may not know who what district they're in, or they might not know what the land commission office is, or the railroad commission, or any of those things, or what does it mean to be a sheriff. And so we're in election season right now. I think by the time that this video comes out, the election would have already happened. But for you, you know, if you were to explain to somebody who, you know, any of the audience members out there, what would be your argument to, you know, focus more on local politics rather than, you know, the bright, shiny, and sometimes controversial, you know, national politics that a lot of people tend to talk about?
Well, it comes down to just one thing, and really is that you can actually go reach out and meet and talk to the people that are working locally. They are your representatives. They're your city council members. They're your, you know, local, you know, House and Senate, your state House and Senate, I should say, and then your Congress people. But also, I mean, just to be honest with you, the problem I see with our media today, and a lot of this I learned firsthand from running for office, was that there's not enough information that's coming out about candidates. There's not enough information that's there because the whole news industry changed when the internet became a viable medium for them to distribute information. So the reason I encourage people to learn more is it's twofold. One, they're not being told enough about what's going on in their local community, and two, they actually have the ability to reach out and meet with those local people and make the changes locally that do have, you know, impact on their life, versus, oh, I'm going to go yell at the TV because this guy that lives 1,000 miles away is saying something that makes me angry, and I have literally no ability to do anything about it.
Yeah. And you've pushed this on the developer group, because there is a, as much to my dismay, there is a political channel there. And
I actually started it, and
I know.
I really didn't expect it to turn out the way it did, and it was like somebody ran the stats of like the most messages, and it was like politics was #1.
Yeah.
After like, and I was like, this Slack has been around for like years, and I'm like how did I become, you know, the person that created this kind of, you know, one channel where people are, and it's not like there are like hundreds and hundreds of people in that channel. It's like 30 or 40 people like having very long, in-depth conversations about politics.
Yeah.
And it's really refreshing, because honestly, like that to me is the goal. It's like, if you can have those in-depth conversations with people from different angles and understand what's going on and who represents who and what they stand for, then yeah, there's no reason the media actually needs to go cover some of those candidates.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is the media doesn't end up covering those candidates.
Right.
And people don't know who represents them, or even what those, to your point, what those offices are, to even know, you know, how to be an informed voter. And to me, like, that's tragic.
So I have to say definitely thank you for being a voice of reason, but also a substantial source of information for people that are in that channel, for example. I know that this is not necessarily I mean, the essay dev group is a public group. Anybody can join it by going to our
Right.
website, satx.dev. But once you go into the politics site, and what you'll find is a lot of people in that group will ask you questions directly, because you are somebody
Yeah.
who is connected. You know, you've run for office. You've done something that nobody else that I know of in this community has done before. And
Well, yeah, and I think so. Part of that is, you know, yes, I have firsthand experience, but the other part is I'm still engaged in that community.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
still part of the Bear Democratic Party. I'm a precinct chair, and it sounds really strange, but you know, I'm still representing my neighborhood. I'm still helping my neighborhood understand, hey, here's when you need to vote. Here are the people that are running. Here's,
Yep.
you know, call me if you want, email if you want. I'll answer whatever questions you have, because I want people to vote.
Yeah, it's very important to be a part of this democracy and to engage in it. But those are also the other side. I mean, some people think that it's enough just to vote, but also there's more that you can do. And a lot of those things that you're already doing, you're getting involved locally, you're talking with people, you're making connections, and you are working to spread knowledge and to help people make informed decisions on, you know,
Right.
what they need to be doing, or what they need to or what they're going to be able to vote on during an election season. So I want to say, like, you know, thank you for doing that, because that's
I'm happy to.
that's a pretty big deal. I mean, you brought the political sign in front of my in front of my house, and so thank you for doing that, by the way. I absolutely
welcome.
love it. I'm not going to say who on this podcast, but you know, it's there if you ever want to. Actually, don't come to my house.
Yeah.
Just don't. I'm not going to dox myself.
Omar's address number is.
Yeah.
I'm-
But yeah,
I'm
man,
kidding.
I did at least want to bring up the land commissioner run, because that's unique, and you know, that's really cool that you did that. Now, I know we talked a lot about you know, your background, your education, a little bit of your work history, as well as your political endeavors and your current political endeavors. But
Right.
kind of like deep down, what keeps you up at night? What are the things that you're passionate about that, you know, keeps you going?
There's so many, man. It's one of those things where I just kind of have to pick and choose.
Sure.
And if it were up to me, I would probably stay up to 2, 3, 4 in the morning every single night, and then just, you know, wake up whenever I wanted to. That's obviously not how the world works.
Yeah, you die.
Well, no, I mean, like if you're really that driven by something, right? It's going to keep you up, and you're going to keep going until. In some ways, it's one of those things, like when there's a question to be answered, right? There's a question to be answered that you can't find a really succinct answer to.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it stays in my head, and it does keep me up, right? And then eventually I either get too tired or I find the answer.
Right.
For me right now, it's more of just trying to make sure that, you know, people are staying engaged, people are staying active, you know, trying to think about the community. You know, how do we stay in a community during a pandemic, right?
Right.
How do we make things that are interesting and useful? Like, because I think you ask anyone that's you know, been at least the slightest bit entrepreneurial and on the tech side of it, they've probably created a number of things that were like highly technical and spent hours on it. And we're like, this is the greatest thing, and it's going to take off, and then they realize they just solved a problem that only they have. And
Right.
you know, it's great that they did that and they feel good about it, but at the same time, they're just going, oh man, guess nobody really does have this problem. It doesn't drive them, you know, crazy like it drives me crazy.
Yeah. I guess no one else wants to.
I don't know.
break
Again,
their candy.
there's not one answer, and I think I really think having that as like, what am I passionate about versus what keeps me up at night are two very different questions. right? The things I'm passionate about are obviously helping my community, helping people be informed about politics,
Right.
helping people be informed about finance, doing financial analysis. That stuff is fascinating to me. Um, you know, going and building, just any number of other apps or be it mobile or web or whatever, discovering new technologies and seeing how I can apply them to different things. Uh, that's all the stuff that I found super interesting. The stuff that keeps me up at night. Like I said, it's the questions I can't answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the questions that I want the answer to, but I don't really have it.
Okay, that's fair. So then what ended up bringing you to the Geekdom community? How'd you end up there? Because you've been there for a long time.
Far away. Yeah.
Yeah, you've been there for a while.
Actually, before we got on here, I went back into my Gmail and went back to see when was the first time that I actually went, to Geekdom.
Yeah, like a time capsule.
Dude, it's gonna blow your mind. It was like 8 years ago.
Whoa, 2012?
Yeah.
Yikes,
September
dude.
2012. Yeah. That's how long I've been here. And I've seen it all, my friend. I wasn't one of the first members, but I was definitely in that first, year or two group that I think Geekdom had been around for about a year when I got to San Antonio, and
Right.
I want to say I was in San Antonio maybe all of two months maybe before I joined. So a lot of my experience with San Antonio is very tightly coupled to Geekdom and the community, and seeing how it's changed dramatically in that time.
How'd you end up finding it? I mean, back then, Geekdom wasn't the household name that it is today.
To be honest with you, my girlfriend was going to work, and I didn't have internet. Like, I had internet at home, but I also wanted to kind of find some tech people and have access to some materials. So I ended up going to the public library downtown for a while.
Okay, in the Central Library?
And then I was just it was one of those things where we had Wi-Fi, but it was the equivalent of dial-up modems.
Yeah.
It was just bad. But on top of that, you had to deal with all kinds of other negative things at that point in time. And I was just like, oh man, there's got to be something better. And was talking to my girlfriend at that time, and she's like, hey, if you check out Geekdom, it's this co-working space that's not too far from, the library, but not too far from, where she works either. And I was like, okay, well, this is great. On the days, we can meet up for lunch, that'd be great. And, I can go do all this work and, meet some really interesting people, because it was another part of it. I was new to town and trying to meet some people. I was staying on the south side, and meeting people that were like-minded and technology focused was just, I didn't even know where to start, man. So it was nice to have some place that was like that, and a nice little introduction, and it just kind of grew from there.
That's pretty cool, because I remember I was there. I started going to Geekdom around March of 2013, so a little bit after you were there, and that's where you and I met each other, was being part of that co-working space. Now, I did want to ask you, so what sort of value have you gotten from being a part of that community? I mean, you've been there for so long. What are some things that you get out of it, or how has what you've gotten out of it changed over the past 8 years?
It's a hard question to answer. And the reason I say it's hard is, one, the value of what I've gotten over the years has changed as I've changed, but also the value that is available has changed as the community has changed.
Sure.
So just saying how, what I got out of it, at the very beginning versus what I get out of it now, it's almost night and day in some ways, um, because like I said, I met a whole lot of really awesome people. There were a bunch of people that were happy to help me learn and help me put me in the right direction for things. And it was very much a community of people helping other people. Um, you know, some of those people are, no longer live here. Some of them are no longer with us in body.
Right.
And, you know, it's, I'm very fortunate that I got to be a part of that group at the very beginning, because I think there's definitely a lot of collaboration that was going on, and at a level that I don't think anybody even comprehended the possibilities of it. And over time, you know, did a bunch of startups, helped a lot of people learn a bunch of things, mentored a bunch of people, and it's been, there's value and sense of reward and knowing that you're helping people grow and turn into better developers, better people, help the community too. And now it's more evolved into almost a social learning hangout environment now. Less focus on, for me at least, it's less of a focus on the startup culture and more on the, hey, let's hang out and talk about the technology topic and be very focused about this, right? With a bunch of people that are knowledgeable or bring their own views to that same kind of technology. So in some ways, it's more of a symposium format, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, kind of like in an agora, like the Greek agora, where everyone just kind of like show up and talk about ideas in an open format.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not only open. It's not only open ideas. There's from time to time there is a focused topic, but yeah, no, it's very much that way. And in some ways, it's allows you to kind of feed your inner stoic and your inner philosopher, get deep into some of the technology aspects of it too.
Okay. So for you then, how would you recommend somebody to give back to that community? I mean, Geekdom, one of I think the 5 pillars is about, being helpful, or at least I don't remember what the
Right.
5 pillars were, but there's a big kind of culture thing within the organization, pushing people to, be willing to help each other, not to ask first, but to help first. What would be a way that you would recommend somebody to do that?
Try to meet people. I say the first thing you should do is reach out and try to meet somebody that you look at and go, that person's really, really interesting. Maybe they'll be a friend, maybe they're just some interesting looking person. I'd say that's step one. Got to make some connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say step two is, instead of trying to get something out of them, just flip the script, man. Say, hey, what is it you need? And if you keep going and meeting people and keep kind of a record of like what people need, eventually you'll find 2 people who be like, hey, I want you to meet this person because they also need that thing, and the 2 of you can help each other, right?
Right.
And in the early days of Geekdom, what was really fantastic about it was, yeah, you had all these, to have an office, you had to earn it. And there was a process to earn it. And pretty much the people that had offices really fell into one of 2 categories. They were people where, you could have taken that door and thrown it out the window and they would have never noticed the difference because it was always open, right? And then there were people that were, the door was closed, 9 to 5, and then 5 o'clock rolled out, hey, come in, have a cocktail, or, sit down and talk, or, just socialize. But the people that like had their doors always open and were in those offices, some of them were just, phenomenal people,
Yeah.
and phenomenally talented at what they did. And so to be able to go and walk in there and say, hey, I've got this marketing question that I have, I need some help on. People be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Let's spitball it, man. I've got 30 minutes. Let's do this.
Right.
Being able to do that is is so important. And I think if people start getting to doing that more frequently, even in a virtual world, I think it would be better for everybody. And it's funny you say like the 2 hours, because I remember when like the very beginning is like, there always would be like somebody that would just be grumpy about their 2 hours and just be like, and like they didn't really want to do anything. My my screen to my left literally just went to sleep, and so I lost all the light over here.
Now that's like you're just like talking to me like in a dark room, like a Bond villain right now.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn up the light a little bit.
All right. Future Omar, make sure you cut this part out.
There we go. A bit more light.
Yeah, it's a bit better. That's better.
I didn't expect that to happen. But I mean, that's what happens when you have a bunch of monitors on your desk and they're connected to different machines.
How many monitors do you have on your desk?
6.
6? And how many machines are they connected to?
2.
Whoa. So do you have like, how does it outline? Is it like 3 on top connected to 1 and then 3 on the bottom connected to 1?
Two vertical, 2 horizontal, 2 vertical.
I see. Okay. Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer doing like vertical setups when I'm coding, because it allows me to just kind of say, okay, here's the code over here, here's the test over here, and I can go back and forth.
Right.
There are also times where I'll be reading an article or something on a web browser, and it's just like, hey, let's take the vertical. Or maybe it's a console that just needs to be super long because I'm trying to figure out which Git branch I need to switch to. Haven't cleaned up my Git branches. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's gotta really should clean this up some point. But
if you do like a Git branch and then like it takes up an entire like what 1080 all the way down, like you'll need like I need like 2160. Like I need to see all my branches. You got a problem, or at least reduce your font size.
I'll be honest with you, I feel like it's one of those like missing functions that if Git just had it, it would just make everyone's life easier. We'd like remove branch that has already been merged upstream and doesn't only exist locally, right?
Yeah.
If there was that functionality, like I just use it and be like boop, and maybe it would be 10, 20 tops branches.
Yeah. I know that you can do that on the GitHub and GitLab side, but that's not something you can do on the CLI side. No. Yeah, you can't do it on
the CLI side. You have to write your own script to do it, and I have a couple of friends that have their own, and I look at it, I'm like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it whenever, man. Yeah. It's not that big of a deal to me.
It's like one of those things you were explaining earlier. It's like, I get a lot of value out of this. This is fantastic, but there's not that many other people who would get value out of this.
Right. Exactly. It's like, and do I want to spend time on that? Like, probably not.
Yeah. It's a cool problem, but it's not a cool problem for me right now.
Right. We only have so much life, and so much time in our life. So it's always nice to be able to go, I could go focus on something else and be perfectly happy.
Yeah. And that's a choice, right? Like to be happy about something is definitely a choice. And I am choosing to be very happy with you because you have always been somebody who always lends a hand anytime that it's needed or anytime that I ask. And like
sometimes when you don't ask and you just need to be told, hey, Omar, I'm here to help you.
Yeah. And it's just funny because you'll post it and like sometimes I'm like, what does he mean? Like, why does he think I need help? Then I step back, I'm like, oh, hold on a second. I can see where he's coming from. He's just trying to be helpful, and he's sensing something, and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm here if you need something. And so I am always appreciative.
Take a short walk, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. So I do appreciate being so forward with that sort of thing and being willing to help not just me but like anybody in our community, because there's a lot of people who also need help sometimes and maybe they don't ask for it, but you're always the first one to reach out. So I do appreciate you doing that.
Right, and that's part of this too, Omar. Is that there are a lot of people that don't know that they even can reach out. right? They think, oh, that person's being bothered by it. This person's working on this thing. They're super focused. They don't even want to deal with whatever my thing is, or and that's what I'm saying. Like, takes that step one is find someone that's interesting that likes Cowboy Bebop enough to set it as their ringtone and forget that they haven't muted that phone.
Oh, that was Tank, wasn't it? You were just playing
Yep.
Tank. Nice.
Yeah, I set it up as my ringtone. The problem is I forgot to silence it before this started, and the other problem is because it is an election season right now.
Mm-hmm.
I am on so many phone call lists, and I normally keep that like phone fully muted, but it was just forgot it. So you got a little tidbit of Tank in there, and
that's fine.
Yeah.
As long as we don't get DMC takedown, we're fine.
Yeah.
Although it did
Well,
sound like
I
someone.
think you had like 5 seconds, like maybe.
Yeah, but I think it sounded more like somebody was dropping a bunch of dishes in the kitchen than it actually sounded like Tank. I wasn't able to make the connection until you said like Cowboy Bebop. I'm like, okay, there's like one Cowboy Bebop song that everybody knows and really appreciates. It's the opening title.
That's what it was.
What was the end one? It was like something blues. Like I know the theme.
Spot.
And I just can't remember. Like anybody who's never watched Cowboy Bebop, please go ahead and find it somewhere so you can watch it because it's a great show. Please forgive the fact that
Real folk blues.
Real folk blues. Thank you very much. Because I say that word in the chorus over and over again, or that phrase. Anyway, please go watch Cowboy Bebop. It's fantastic. And if you can't get it, then watch Samurai Champloo. That's also an excellent one. All right, so
I haven't even heard that. I gotta check it out.
oh, you haven't heard of it's by the same people who do Cowboy Bebop, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's like samurais and hip hop. It's fantastic.
Sweet. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. All right, so the last question I usually ask people is, who do you want to see interviewed next on Meet a Geek?
I feel like I'm torn because I feel like I could challenge you to interview yourself, which I think would be fascinating, kind of like a Tom Waits interviewing Tom Waits.
Yeah.
But I think there's probably some other people out there that I think you could interview. I'm trying to think like who were the people that you were around when you first got to Geekdom?
Oh man, I know Cynthia Phelps was there, Michael Gridley was there, and Jason Strawn, Chris Turner. There's a couple of people who...
If you haven't interviewed Cynthia, interview Cynthia.
Yeah,
She's amazing.
That's one of the people on my list. I do want to reach out to her and interview her.
I would say she's number one on that list.
Okay, cool.
I could also see you like interviewing like Ryan Saltz or.
I did.
You oh man.
I was editing
go back
that.
And look at,
Yeah,
it.
I was editing that video right before I jumped on here. I mean, put my daughter to sleep, started editing, and then we started our interview here. But yeah, so that one should be coming out next week, and whenever this video comes out, it came out already. So I'll send you a link whenever it does come out.
Cool. I think also Brendan McHugh.
Okay.
I'll interview him. He's pretty fascinating. He was my office mate for a very long time, pre-COVID.
Oh yeah.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, he is a great guy. Very cool. Yeah, I'll see if I can reach out to him as well. All right, cool, man. Well, Tex, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this conversation. Is there anything that you want to say to the audience here at Meet a Geek?
Not really, man. Just keep doing
The
what
train
you're doing.
does. The train
The
does.
train does. There are trains everywhere. Yeah, like that was like right on cue.
It really was. Yeah.
Next thing that's gonna happen is like something breaks off screen.
One of the picture frames
random
falls from the
person
wall.
runs through. Yeah. No, I mean just keep at it. Go meet some awesome people. Keep having some great conversations.
Cool, man. That's fantastic advice. And for everyone out there, of course, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe in this video. Hit that bell notification icon so you see whenever I post these new Meet a Geek, so you can meet other geeks. And always do not forget to be helpful. We will see you next week.